Hi, I'm Ray, and welcome to my channel. This is my September reading journal. I read 4 books this month, and I did this recording in 2 sittings, so you see my nails change a little bit, and how messy the table is will change as well, but that's alright. I always start by filling out my annual pages, my calendar, my Pixel reading tracker, which I decided to change the way I mark, so I only do yellows for the days read and little dots for days that I finished a book. And then I had to skip my bingo because I had no bingos this month. And then I went straight to my book club page, in which I realized that I printed things way too large. So I had to reprint some stuff that I will do later. And for my Year of Goober challenge, I decided to go with Morning Glory for September, a book under 300 pages, which I did achieve. I just read a different book from the one I originally planned to. And I do have a long list of everything, all the books I read and movies I've watched that I put down on my in 2025 pages. But as I did do this recording in 2 sittings, here I am going back in a different day to finish filling up my pixels, marking out the other 2 books that I finished this month. I almost didn't finish 4 books. As you can tell, I finished a book on the last day of the month, but that's all right. Still no bingo book this month. And for A Year of Goober, I read Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis instead of the one I originally planned to. And we'll talk about this book when we get to the review, but this is a doozy of a book. For movies, I actually watched a movie again this September, so I've watched Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle, the first one, and it has a slow-mo fight, a couple of them, or bits of slow-mo fights, so that's what I put down. And I almost have a second bingo in this. I might be able to do a second bingo. I'm very excited. We'll see what October has in store for us. And as you can see, to color my bingo, I'm using color pencils. I just thought it would be easier to not have any bleeding using color pencils, and I use my old Prismacolors for that. So I just finished adding up the things for September that I read and watched. And I finally get to put a movie in my stats for September. I'm very excited. Kimetsu no Yaiba got a 4.5 stars. And for the books, I have 4 books, 2 ebooks, and 2 audiobooks this month. And no 5 stars, which is normal, with an average rating of 4.13. And for my alphabet challenge, I was able to add Jar City by Arnaldur Indridason. I'm definitely saying that wrong. He is from Iceland. I apologize profusely. The names in this book are very hard. And then for Adventures in Aldia, my last of my yearly pages, I did A Marvelous Light for August. I'm very behind in this. I just started doing it and I'm already behind. I did not read a book for September. I'm reading that in October. Hopefully in October, I will be able to read both books for it. But before getting to my September pages, I had to go back to my August pages to put down Binti, because when I did these pages, I did not have the cover printed yet. And I ended up using the wrong size prints and just cutting them up a little bit to make it look like the original size I used. And it worked out mostly okay. You can definitely tell it's bigger than it should be, but it functions. The whole wrong size thing was because I changed the paper I'm using to print the covers and the way I am organizing them as well. So some growing pains, I ended up getting the sizes wrong, but I fixed it and the next sizes are way closer in size to the original ones. But we are here for my September book reviews, and I finally made it to my September pages. So first off, I have the continuation of my bookshelf because I completed the original one, so I had to create an extension. I'm putting down Everything's Tuberculosis and A Marvelous Light, and refusing to accept that I did not have the correct size for these covers for my cover page. Here I was looking for a small Marvelous Light and remembering that I actually used it for my Year in Aldia page. So I struggled a little bit with figuring out what sizes to use and how to use it, if I could use this size or a different size. I ended up just marking out the places for books to go and writing down the stars for the 2 first books before printing the covers and figuring out this page by the end of the month. So for my second recording session for September, I had the covers reprinted in this new glossy print paper that I have that has a sticker back. It's really nice. It's really shiny. It's really punchy. Like the colors are really punchy, but it does smear really easily, so I'm not 100% sold in this paper, but I will use it until I finish the whole package because it came with a lot of pages, so I have a lot to use. And before moving on to the reviews, I'm just adding Jar City and Freedom is a Constant Struggle to the bookshelf page. As you can tell by now, the first book I read in September was Everything's Tuberculosis by John Green, and it was really good. I did the audiobook for this book. He is the narrator, so that was really nice. He is a great nonfiction narrator. And for the decoration, I decided to keep it really simple. I used a offcut from an anatomy book I bought to make collages with. I used this head that was really on point for Everything's Tuberculosis. And for the rest of the page, I just wrote down the information that I like keeping with the review, which is the author's name, and if there's a narrator or translator, I also put that down. I put down the format and the length of the book, the publishing year, the time it took me to read, and the genre of the book itself as well. And you see me flippy flopping the book is because I never remember the order I put these in, so I always look into a previous review. And for this book, I chose to write down a quote that I wrote while I was listening, which is, "Think of the people who have loved you up into your now," which really is about how the people around us changed us and mold us just by being around us, you know? And while this book is definitely about tuberculosis, it is also about the people that are affected by it, both nowadays and historically, and how the disease has affected history in one way or another. As for my review of this book itself, I followed my rating system. I did the DM of my Carpe Diem, which is the nonfiction version of it, which rates the directness of the text or the readability of it, the impact, the personal impact the text had on me, my enjoyment of the book itself, as well as the mastery of the author on the subject matter. And while trying to keep it vague for the people that haven't read this book really deals with the impact of tuberculosis in society, both in a societal level in cities and countries, as well as individual level, with John Green being able to bring us actual patient tales of how they've dealt or not dealt with tuberculosis. Reading this book is also a class on how money affects things, and it's really hard to read this book and not be very angry at society with how, even though we have a cure, it is still almost impossible to actually treat people because the money is not on it. So it is a book that makes you deal with a lot of frustration because it teaches you historically how tuberculosis was seen when it was a rich people's disease, right? Like it was a poet disease, it was an artist disease, because these people that couldn't do anything because they had consumption or tuberculosis ended up being great artists, or some of them ended up being great artists, and it was romanticized in that sense. So the frustration and the anger that John Green passes through this text really is deeply felt. I rated this book 4.5 stars. I think John Green was able to really bring out his strength as a novelist to this historical tale, and it was really well done. The second book I read this month was A Marvelous Light by Freya Marske. I believe that's how you say it. This is the first installment of the Last Binding trilogy. I've been meaning to read this series for a while now, so liking the first book makes me excited for the rest of the series. And for decorations for this page, I ended up going very flowery to match the cover, to kind of make it very maximalistic kind of situation with all the different flower prints. And I chose this BT tape as well that has the books because it really matches one of the main characters, because he is always researching things and reading things. He's very much the researcher of the story, so it really matched him. And there's a whole scene where we go into this big home library that he has, so is just on point. And after writing down the book information that I always like keeping with my reviews, I realized I was missing something in the bottom corner. So I found this really dapper sticker from my Mystical Ephemera book, and that really matches the Edwardian Victorian vibe of the book. So here's the last edition for the decorations. As for my review, I did my Carpe from the Carpe Diem rating system that I do, which I use for fiction. Carpe stands for characters, atmosphere, relationship, plot, and enjoyment. I'll try to keep my voiceover very spoiler free, although the written version definitely has spoilers, so read it at your own peril. What I can say about this book is that the characters really make it. The plot itself is not super unique or different or anything like that. It's a quite simple plot at the end of the day, but the characters are really enjoyable. They feel very complete. Even minor characters feel very complete to me. So it was really interesting to see this kind of simple plot happening to these characters and seeing how they react to it and how they make it go forward as well, because they do have a lot of agency. So it was really interesting, and it did help that Marsk made Robin kind of a fish out of water, not knowing what's going on, being new to the magic. So a lot of things get explained to him in a way that doesn't bog down the story and bring it to a halt. It kind of is happening while things are being explained. So that was a really good way of using the fish out of water character with Robin. And Edwin also feels a little bit outside of the magical system, so it was an interesting perspective as well to have him not be in the center of everything that's going on, but kind of tangential to it. So I actually really liked their relationships to magic and to each other. So I ended up giving this magical queer romance a 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy it. I am looking forward to the next 2 books, and I think I might be picking up the second one this month of October, maybe. As for the third book I read this month, it was Jar City by Indriðason. I really should have looked up how to say Icelandic names. I didn't. It's my own fault. It's okay. This book I picked up because I'm following the Read Around the World Storygraph Challenge of 5 different countries, and Iceland is one of them. This was the first book from Iceland I've ever picked up. I had no idea what to expect, and I didn't really like it. It was very gloomy, very kind of clearly emo, that I couldn't really enjoy this. I also only realized after finishing that this is the third book with Inspector Elendor being the main character detective. So that's my own fault, and explains why I was confused for a big chunk of it, going, who are these people? Why do you think I know them? But that's my own fault, so I won't deduct points for that. As for the decorations, I had to follow the gloomy aspect of the book and just keep it very gray and sad with the crow and the weird moth. I just kept it very simple, honestly. The crow and the man are from my Mystical Ephemera booklet. The PET tape is from AliExpress. I'll link it down below. And the moth, it was from a package of little ephemera that I bought at Michael's ages ago. I have no idea. It was a Halloween themed little package of ephemera though, so I had like random bats and moths and stuff. And as you can see, I did the spread a little bit out of order. I decided to do all the decoration first and then do my reviews. For Freedom is a Constant Struggle, I used a flower washi tape that I bought at the paper shop in Toronto, and that was it. I tried keeping it very simple because this book is a doozy. But let's first talk about the fiction in Jar City before talking about the non-fiction of Freedom is a Constant Struggle. For Jar City, this book is a collection of gloomy characters within a gloomy plot, within a gloomy book atmosphere. It's just, that is the best description I can give out of this book without really telling you about much, because it is a detective story. So if I try to talk about any of it, I feel like I'll give the story away. But what I can say is that I really struggled with this book because, one, the plot didn't really grip me, and the characters did not help me at all. because for me, a book really needs its characters to hold itself up. So for this one, with a meh plot and a meh set of characters, I was kind of just floundering through when finished it just because it was for the Read Around the World challenge. I will give it props though for having a very serious subject matter and being fairly respectful of how serious it is, like how serious its topic is. And I'm trying to keep it very vague, but this book deals with the very worst of what an individual can be. Not necessarily about society, but about the individual. And I do believe that's why the book comes out being so gloomy, because it is touching upon the worst of what a person can be. And it's not just one person or two people, it's basically everyone in this book is shown to be somewhat bad in many senses of the word, and how that influences their own lives and the lives of the people around them. I ended up rating this book 3.5 stars using my card-based system that I've been using this year, and it's honestly a little bit higher than I originally thought I'd given it, but this book does have its merits. It is well written. The translation comes up a little bit odd sometimes, but it might just be because it's an Icelandic text. I'm not used to it, so it just feels a little bit odd, but it does have its merits, so 3.5 stars it is. Now, for the last book I read in September, I read Angela Davis's Freedom is a Constant Struggle. I've been meaning to read Angela Davis for a while now, and this is the first one I've picked up. And it is definitely something that I wish I've read 10 years ago, which is when it came out. This book is from 2015, and this is a collection of essays and speeches that she wrote and gave around the 2012-2014 timeline. And there's definitely things that dated in that era, with her talking about Obama being president of the United States and other geopolitical realities that we had in the early 2010s. But this book, unfortunately, also comes out being extremely current to the events that we are dealing with in the 2020s. The complete title of this book is Freedom is a Constant Struggle, Ferguson, Palestine, and the Foundations of a Movement. So even though this is a collection of different texts, it does read as a full thing because it has this through line through all of the essays that this book brings. But unfortunately, it also suffers from being a collection of essays and not being able to really focus in one or two things and bring it to the forefront. But because it is a collection of essays on slightly different topics about the same thing of freedom, it really goes to show how the fight for freedom and the fight for justice is connected throughout the entire world. And there are so many good quotes that you can take out of this book, but the one I chose to really represent this book to me is, "Justice is indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And I chose this quote because it really represents what this book is talking about. How the fight for freedom, the fight for justice needs to be a global fight. It cannot be an individual fight. And how, for example, she talks about the apartheid in South Africa that was only legally defeated when the world got together to fight that apartheid. And how the violence that Palestinians are suffering on the hands of Israel can only be stopped through a global movement as well. So this book ends up being quite hard to read because it is so angering, but I think it is very necessary. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think the only fault of this book is that it is a collection of essays and not one full essay. And that's what I read in September. It was only 4 books, but I really did enjoy them, and I liked how my reading journal turned out as well. Let me know if you read any of these and what you thought about them. Bye! Have a good one.